Hello, welcome to Microsoft Access Tutorial 1, Database Objects. My name is Lovemore and I'll take you through the steps of creating and working with a Microsoft Access database. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So, who is this course for? Anyone who works with data. If you work with data, this course is for you. Of course, you don't have to be a technical person. You don't have to be an information technology expert to be able to work with Microsoft Access database, right? So let's dive in. What can we use Access for? Okay, one, we can use it in organizations to create database applications. Okay, we can create personal databases, and we can use it in the formatting of data. Sometimes you may find yourself in a situation where you need to migrate data from one system to another, and you need to format that data so that the destination system can work with it. Microsoft Access does a good job of that. You can work with the data in there, manipulate it, and then export it. Right? The other use for Microsoft Access is the creating of reports. If you have data in a spreadsheet and you want it represented in the form of a nice looking report, you can import it into Microsoft Access and then create the reports from there and distribute them to whoever requires them. Okay. So, what is a database management system? A database management system is simply the software that we use to create, manage, or maintain databases. And examples include Microsoft Access, SQL Server or SQL Server, Oracle, etc. Database objects, which is the topic for this tutorial. We have first object, we have tables, we have queries, we have forms, and reports. Okay, those are the four main objects that we'll be working with. There are other objects like modules and macros, but for now we'll restrict ourselves to these four. We are trying to keep things simple, and I think those other two objects will be looked at in more advanced classes. So tables, what's a table? Okay. Tables are the basic building blocks of a database. Okay. They are the containers of data in a database. So without tables, you can't have a database. Tables are the most basic. Okay. You can have tables without any other thing and you'll be able to store your information. So tables are the containers of the data in a database, and they are very important. Then we have queries. Queries are used to retrieve data from the database tables. So based on a given criteria. So if you, for instance, if you want to query the database to give you a list of employees who are over the age of 55, you can use a query and indicate in the criteria that you want a list of individuals over the age of 55, and you will have your list. So queries are very important. They are the means by which we retrieve meaningful information from the database tables. Forms. Forms are basically data entry screens. Forms make it easy for us to interact with the data that's in the database. We'll enter data, retrieve data, make updates, and so on. Without tables, you would have to do it directly through the tables, and that can be quite cumbersome, or rather cumbersome. So the forms provide a user-friendly way to interact with the data in the database. Okay. Then we have reports. Yes, reports. These are easy to read, or this is easy to read information that is retrieved from a database. Okay, so reports, basically you are talking of database data organized in a way that's easy to understand, and that can be used for decision making. Okay, so those are our objects. So now what we're going to do is we'll look at an already existing database, and we'll look at how these objects work. And then after that, we'll create a fresh database and create one object, which is a table. So we open this already existing database. This is a database about book reading, okay? Keeping track of how many books have been read, which books were read at what time, which books are still being read, that kind of thing. So here we go. Tables. The first group, here we have tables, and the first table that we have is a table of authors. If we open it, we just have two fields there, author ID and the name of the author. Okay, and so we close. Then we have book categories. Okay, the categories we have here are spiritual books. We have business books, computer science related books, biographies, social science, music, general. I guess that's where you throw anything that does not suit the mentioned ones. Okay, so close that. So these are tables all the way up to here. And from here, you notice that the icon changes. We have a different icon here. These are queries, and we have two queries. Okay. The first query is a query that shows us books that are still being read, not completed yet. And then the second query is showing us the books that have been completed. Okay, so if we want to see how many books have been completed, we open that, only one book, and that is a book by Linda something. I can't pronounce that name. Okay, it's a music book, The Right Way to Read Me, or The Right Way to Sing. Okay, so that book was read all the way up to the end, and that query has given us that. Okay, we close the query. We are not going to save. And then after the queries, again, we see a different icon there. These are forms, and we have about 3 forms. Okay, the first form is a form for book details. Okay, so open it. Here we go. So maybe let's enter a new book. So what are we going to call it now? Okay, we're saying advanced what? Success. Advanced MS Access. Written by who? Okay, the author is Alvin Cooper. Number of pages, we don't know, we'll just leave it. Or maybe let's say that it's 200. We can put our 200 there. And category, this book is definitely under the computer science category. We do that. When we are done, of course, we save the record. Okay, record saved. So we get back to the book details table and see if, of course, there it is at the bottom. Advanced MS Access. Now, instead of seeing the author, you only see the author ID. The reason for this will be explained in future videos, not so far from now. Okay, and we see all these other codes have been entered. All right. So that's how we use the forms, and we can close the form here. And finally, we see this object with a green icon. That's a report. We just have one report, and this report is a report showing us books completed or completed books. So when you open it, remember when we opened that query, we only had one record, so we expect to see only one record here. And yes, there it is, The Right Way to Sing by Linda. The surname I can't pronounce. Sorry about that, Linda. Okay, so there we have the dates, start date. Okay, when did this individual begin to read this book? Okay, it was on 25th of February 2020 and finished it on the 30th of August 2020. Okay, so that's how these objects work. In future tutorials, we'll go through them one by one. We'll create each of these and also create the relationships between them, create the queries to see how all these things are done. And to end this video, I think we'll create one object, which is the table. We'll just do the basic things about creating a table. So, and we'll start a brand new database. So we open Microsoft Access. And by the way, you've probably noticed by now that I'm using Microsoft Access 2007. You shouldn't worry if you're using higher versions, because the things that I'm presenting using 2007 still work for 2013. The icons may be arranged differently, but they look the same. You'll still be able to recognize them. And you'll be able to do everything that you need to do. Okay, so here we are. Microsoft Access has opened. So we select blank database. And down here, this is where we specify the path, or we specify the folder in which we want to place this database, or the location on the computer where we want this database to be located. And for now, just let it stay in documents, and then we give that database a name. Let's call it first DB. Then we say OK. That first DB comes in there. Okay, and the next thing we do is to click on the create button there. And we've created our database. Simple as that. So if you do this thing step by step, there should be nothing difficult about it. All right, so to create a table, of course, we go up there in the menu and click on create. So here we can create all sorts of things. We can create forms. There's form design there, reports, query wizard, query, macro. Okay, here are the other two objects that I mentioned, macro and module. Okay, so these are out of scope for now. So what we want to create now is a table. So we look for table. Here we are, table design. So we click on that and it gives us that. Okay. So here we enter field name and then data type. Data type specifies whether the data we want to store for that field is numeric, date, or text, or and so on. So here we go. We are creating a table of employees. So we'll say personnel number as the first. Sorry. As our first field there. Data type, number. Okay, then here it gives us what type of a number it is. Long integer. An integer is a number that has no decimal points. And long integer meaning this is it can be a very huge number. So we can store as many employees as we want, even over 100,000. All right, so here we go. The next thing we enter now is the first name. First name, of course, is text. And there we are, the default. If you are using Microsoft Access 2013 and upwards, here you select short text. Okay, and down here it tells us the field size. So the user will be allowed to enter up to 255 characters. Okay, that's the maximum for text or short text for Microsoft Access 2013 going up. Okay. When we come to the last name, of course, is text as well. Then date of birth. And by the way, you shouldn't leave spaces in between words when naming fields. Okay, you can either write them joint like that or put an underscore in between them. Right. So I'm using the first letter of each word. I'm capitalizing the first letter of each word. Okay, to make it readable. And of course, give meaningful names to fields. All right. So date of birth has a data type called date time. Okay. And then maybe we'll do the last one, social security number. I'll just abbreviate it like that in the interest of time, and we'll leave it as text. All right, so we have 5 fields in this employees table, and we haven't saved it yet, so let us save it. So we have this little dialog box here that says save as. Okay, table name, we have a default table 1, but such names are not good, so we have to give it a meaningful name. And we just call it employees. Okay, and we say okay. But then Microsoft Access has noticed something. We have not selected our primary key. All right. It says, although a primary key isn't required, it's highly recommended. Okay, the table must have a primary key, okay, for you to define the relationship between this table and other tables in the database. Do you want to create a primary key now? If we say yes, Microsoft Access will create a primary key for us, but we don't want to do that. We'll create our own, or we'll select a field which should be the primary key. The primary key is a field that uniquely identifies a record in a table. Okay, so for instance, if we have two John Smiths in this employee table, for us to distinguish between the two, what will help us is the personnel number, okay, which in this case is more suited to be the primary key. So the personnel number is a unique number given to each member of staff. You can't have more than one person having the same number, so that qualifies to be our primary key. Okay, so we are going to select personnel number there, and then click on this key icon. Okay, so if you hover the mouse there, it even tells you primary key. Designate the selected field or fields as the primary key. Yes, sometimes you can have a combination of fields to form one primary key, but in our case here, we just have one is enough. That's the personnel number. So the moment we click, you notice that icon comes right next to personnel number, meaning this is now our primary key field. So we save, and it's saved. There we go. We have our employee table. Now, this is what is referred to as design view. Okay, we are looking at this table in design view. Okay, and if you want to see the data contained in the table, the actual data there, okay, you have to view it in datasheet view. Okay, also the datasheet view also allows us to add records. Okay, so this is design view. We are just from designing our table, giving it the metadata. So we close that. Now to open it in datasheet view, you can just double click. There we go. Datasheet view is just like a spreadsheet. Okay, so our first field, personnel number, say 1. First name, John. Surname, Smith. Date of birth. Okay, now because we used date time as our data type, the moment we click in there, the date picker comes, okay, on the right side, and there we go. And already today's date is highlighted there, which is 30th of August. And you can also enter directly the date. Since we're talking date of birth, if we use the date picker, look, it's showing us the current date. It means you'd have to go back several months, several years to get to one's date of birth. So here it's advisable to just enter it. So we say this person was born on the 24th of April 1998. So that's our date. Social security number, just put in anything there. Okay, so there we have our first record. And if you want to create more records, you keep on adding. And now, see what will happen if we try to use one again, the same personnel number for another person. This one will be Linda. You see that? The changes you requested to the table were not successful because they would create a duplicate value in the index, primary key, or relationship. All right. So this helps to promote data integrity and consistency. You cannot assign the same personnel number to two people, to two or more people, because it's a primary key, so it can only, a particular number can only be given to one employee or one individual or one item, depending on what that table is about. So to undo everything, you just press the escape button and everything will disappear, and then you can begin again from scratch. Put a 2 there and go and move on to complete the record. All right. So that's our table there. We have 3 records, and this is in datasheet view. We're able to view it as a spreadsheet, and we can also add records there. Okay, and if we want to switch from datasheet view to design view, we just right click on top there, the tab on the table name there, employees, we right click, then we choose design view, and we'll be shown this view. Okay, again, if we want to change, we change to datasheet view there. So that's our table. So in the next tutorial, we'll look at creating more tables and creating relationships between those tables. Or we'll define what a relationship is, and then we'll create those relationships. Right. Thanks for watching. And if you are not subscribed, please click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can receive notifications each time I post a new video. Also, don't forget to leave a like and also to leave a comment. Right. Let's get interactive. Ask questions, and I'll be able to answer them right there in the comment box. All right. See you in the next video. Thanks.